Okay, so this is the last faction to have a look at in MOS, and it is Mordor, of course. My personal favourite in terms of the changes that have been made to it in MOS, because Mordor have got a lot of cool new stuff. So there's a lot to talk about, unlike with some of the ones that I've been doing more recently, like Misty Mountains and Eriador. They didn't really have a lot of changes, so it was kind of a non-event. But with Mordor, there are certainly quite a few things that we can talk about, and I will load up their roster so we can have a look. So here in front of you, you will see all of the new units that Mordor have. Now, I did actually want to do the whole roster, but unfortunately several of Mordor's units, even when I turn the unit scaling down like to this level, usually the Uruk Bodyguard has 100 for example, but now I've got it on low, the game would crash, mainly because I think of stuff like Sauron and the Mumakil and the Dead of the Marshes all being on the map at the same time. The game just freaks out and dies. And I didn't really want to turn down the quality of the units because looking at the units up close is, I think, more important. Looking at the new units up close is more important than seeing all of the units on dreadful quality. So this is going to be a relatively short video. I wanted it to be longer, but ultimately the game doesn't want to play ball. So we will be doing it like this. Now the Uruk Bodyguard are a unit which is actually in vanilla, but not in online. So it is nice to have the General's Bodyguard here, the more elite Uruks, if you will. But ultimately, the Bodyguard, you're probably going to put your General in another unit, a unit which we'll get onto a little bit later on. I don't know why I added the Nazgul, because they're not new, but I just added them anyway. But there they are, there are the Nazgul. But yes, the Uruk Bodyguard, decent General's Bodyguard unit, pretty similar to the Orc Bodyguards that Misty Mountains and Gundabad have. But I think you'll be putting your General in another unit altogether. Now here you have the Guldur Slayers, and as you can see by their ridiculous axes, they are shock infantry, and they'll do a decent amount of damage. They're a very good unit to go up first onto the walls. They are essentially a shock infantry variant of the Uruks, but they will die off pretty quickly because they're shock infantry and they're orcs, so orcs are designed to die off quickly essentially. But I would say that they are a nice addition because most of Mordor's high tier infantry was, well, I say high tier, Uruks and Uruk halberds. They weren't really designed to do any sort of damage, they were just designed to be a lot of them and to overwhelm the enemy. Whereas here, they'll do a decent amount of damage. Most of the time with Mordor, you were reliant on your trolls to do the damage in the past, but now you have a lot of units which can do a decent amount of damage, not least the Morgul Rooks, which are a slightly better version of the Guldur Slayers. Essentially, they are more survivable. You've got some nice maces, some enlarged Uruk High scimitars, it looks like. Very cool looking unit. I believe a unit that looks exactly like this is called Sauron's Will in Reforged, so get used to looking at these because they will be making a return in some form or another in Reforged, and I'm looking forward to Reforged a lot. And then we have one of the more interesting units that Mordor have been given, and that is the Castellans of Dol Guldur. You'll notice they dual-wield swords, and their defense is actually pretty low, but their attack is very high. They're one of the few units in this mod, at least this submod, that does a lot of damage, and they will get a lot of kills. They will die pretty quickly, unfortunately. You might think that this nice-looking armor will protect them, but alas, no. They're one of my favourite units anyway. Only one unit that Mordor have, other than these guys, impressed me more, and I really like them. If you look over here, we have the Dead of the Marshes. We'll get onto them in a minute, but the Castellans of Dol Guldur, I would suggest, are one of the more scary units, because if you put these guys up on the walls, especially if you back them up with some more meaty units, like for example the Morgul Rooks, you're going to get a lot of damage done up on the walls. I hope these guys make a return in Reforged. I'm not sure if they do, but they really should, because they are a very, very good unit. They're an interestingly unique unit as well, simply because they're such high damage and such low defense that I think they add some interesting balancing into it, because Mordor need a unit like this, I think, to make them a little bit more competitive, because when compared with some of the higher tier factions in vanilla, Mordor were really over reliant on their trolls, and this gives them another option. The Dead of the Marshes, this is a very cool looking unit. You can see the sort of zombified Eldar Enway in there, and some Arnorian units there as well, some dead orcs. nice looking, well, I say a nice looking unit, a cool looking unit. Of course, they are basically a stronger version of the Nazgul, which is kind of weird, but you know, they have more hit points, they do more damage. You can only really have one because the cost increases astronomically after you get one. But yeah, a very, very devastating unit. Similar to the Gundabad Barrow Whites, only I think these guys are actually slightly stronger. So again, Mordor really overshadowing the other Orc factions pretty majorly with the high tier units they have. And then we have my favourite unit that Mordor have, and that is the dismounted Black Númenóreans. These guys, they are in Reforged, I know that, and they are just such a good unit. Such a devastating unit to use. They have their they're essentially a two-handed unit, but with all the survivability of a sword and board, and that is, you know, they will be able to hold the line, they will be able to do damage. There's not really anything these guys can't do. They're very expensive, obviously, and this is likely where you'll put your general, if in any of these units. Of course, usually you'll probably be putting your general in the mounted version, just so he can get out of sticky situations a little bit easier. But yeah, you know, the dismounted Black Númenóreans, if you've seen any custom scenarios in vanilla, you'll already be familiar with these guys, but to be able to pick them from a roster in a basic game is very, very nice. I love these guys. One of my favourite units in the mod as a whole, including the vanilla. And here we have the only new archer unit that Mordor have, the Moranon Archers. These guys are actually a pretty decent archer unit. They have a missile damage of 5. Doesn't sound brilliant, but they are actually pretty good in terms of the submod as a whole. In terms of vanilla, I think these guys would actually be a high tier archer unit if they were scaled back up to what the archer damage was like in vanilla. And yeah, these guys pretty decent. It gives you a skirmish option, which the other Orc factions really don't have, other than the Uruk-hai crossbows of Isengard. And I included the spiders here because the Great Spiders have actually been nerfed. In vanilla, they were wretchedly overpowered. They were probably pound for pound the most overpowered unit in vanilla. But because of the nerf, you might very well see these guys on the field. And best of all, they don't cause crashes like something like Sauron or the Mumakil. I'd have liked to show off Sauron again, but unfortunately he's not too friendly on the game, especially at high graphics. So that is all of Mordor's new units. And yeah, I think we'll go back to the main menu and discuss what I intend to do in terms of videos next. So that was all of the MOS factions, and ultimately there wasn't really a great deal I could do with the MOS factions, mainly because I didn't want to rehash what I'd already done, which is why I only did the faction overviews in the fashion that I did before with the new one. So for instance, Dunland, I set up an army and showed them in action once again. But with all the others, I've already done them before, and there wasn't enough of a difference, I don't think, to justify doing it all again, especially so soon after the faction overviews I did before. I didn't want to just rehash what I'd already done, so I did these smaller videos instead. As for what I intend to do when Reforged comes out, I want to include a little bit more of the lore background of each of the factions, just sort of flesh it out a little bit. I want to make the videos a little better because I know that they are very basic in their current form. And, you know, I'd like to improve them, just see what I can do with the resources that I have. As for things that aren't Third Age or Total War related, I don't know, like, we'll see. Like, I don't really have any rhyme or reason to my channel, you know, it just sort of is a thing that I do. And indeed, I am a very small channel, so in terms of a schedule, I still can't really offer a schedule for uploads simply because university is a thing and it's very unpredictable as it is. So I won't be able to offer any sort of regular schedule with how I'm going to do things, especially because I don't really know what I'm going to post and when I'm going to post it, other than the fact that I'm going to do something for Reforged. You know, I think I'll be doing sort of like overviews again to some extent because of how much there is that's new, at least how much it is that looks. It looks like there's a lot of new things in Reforged, so it looks like it's worth doing sort of some expanded overviews. Again, I wanted to do some of the lore, but you know, I'm not really sure where to take my channel now. Like, I have more subscribers than I ever thought I'd get, to be honest with you. I was gonna stop doing videos after the initial overviews because I was a little bit bored during the end of summer break from university, so I started doing them and they started getting some views, so I continued it, and I'm still continuing it because they're still getting views. So I'm not really sure where to go from here. I mean, suggestions would be nice. I have had it suggested to me that I could do a single player campaign in Third Age, and there is a few reasons why I'm reluctant to do that. Number one is how long they are. You know, a campaign in Total War is an elongated thing. It's not something which is going to be done after a few videos. The second thing is the campaign is likely to get pretty samey. You know, the episodes are going to be pretty much the same as it goes along. Like, it's going to be me playing the game, just, you know, plodding along in the game, and that's fine. You know, I would enjoy playing, you know, a game. Obviously, it's something that you do for fun. But the problem is I'm not really sure people are going to enjoy watching it as much as they might think. Mainly because it's going to be very long. You know, it's going to be, you know, I doubt that someone is going to sit from start to finish and watch me play a Total War campaign for 40 plus hours. So that's why I'm reluctant to do that. It's a big commitment. That's the problem. Like, the reason that I did the faction overviews in the first place is because it's a finite thing that I was able to do. And as soon as I start getting into doing Let's Plays of games like Total War, that's when it starts to get a little bit long. And I can't imagine that people will enjoy watching it as much simply because of the nature of what it is. So I am reluctant to do it. If enough people want me to do it, then I will do it. But I would need to have a pretty overwhelming majority of people coming to me and saying, we want you to do this. And I'm not really sure that I can guarantee as soon as I start doing it, the view count will drop off because it's just not going to be as interesting to watch, I don't think. I might be wrong, you know, and please feel free to tell me if I'm wrong because, you know, I will do it for you if you want me to. So yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to come next for the content I upload, other than the fact that there will be stuff to do with Reforged. And I will upload battle replays, you know, if and when there is a good one. But yeah, you know, there's not really a lot more to say. I'm stumbling over my words and I'm repeating myself now. So, you know, if you have any suggestions for me, leave them in the comments and I will read them. And I hope to see you for whatever I post next. And thank you for watching these videos.